Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of ScreenFlow Live. I'm Andrew Haley, your host, and today is Wednesday, August 10th, 2016, and we have a great show for you today. I'm very excited to welcome Vernon Ross. This dude is amazing. He has a ton of experience in entrepreneurial ventures and business development, as well as marketing and just being a business coach in general. He's active on social media. He has a wonderful podcast that he does every week. And I think that you're going to get a ton of information, tips, and just practical advice from him on how to leverage social media, leverage things around your business. And then through it all, he's also a powerful ScreenFlow user. He's been using it for quite a number of years now, and he knows this software like the back of his hand. So he uses it as part of his toolkit, and I think that he'll have some valuable tips to share with you on how you can do the same thing. So we wanted to bring you on this show valuable people who know what they're doing, have areas of expertise and specialties that no one else does, and can share with you how, what they've learned along the way on their journeys, and hopefully bring you some value and help you on your own. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Vernon. He's joining us by Skype through our New Tech Talk Show box, and he is in St. Louis. Hey, Vernon.
Hey, what's going on, Andrew?
Hey, not much. So we're really excited to have you. We've kind of had this in the works. I think we reached out to you some months back and kind of floated the possibility of doing this.
Right.
Yeah. So I think
that sounds good. Great introduction, by the way. Thank you.
No problem. I'm actually just flying by the seat of my pants. So I actually want to leave, let you introduce yourself to folks and kind of give them a little bit of a background on who you are and what you do and where you're coming from.
All right, cool. So I am Vernon Ross, host of the Social Strategy Podcast. I started this podcast pretty much because my clients wouldn't listen to me. And the only way I figured I could get them to listen to me was to get experts on in social media and business and networking, having a conversation with me and basically elevating my influence by having influential people on. So that kind of explains the podcast. But for me, I'm a digital marketer, social media strategist, kind of self-taught, got into the whole thing through the video games industry. Me and a buddy of mine decided to start hosting these video game tournaments. I've always been into arcades and video games and playing online, and was playing Halo and got to know all of these pro gamers that were, competing across the country and some overseas, internationally playing video games. So we decided to do a little video game company where we would go around, host events, bunch of Xboxes, TVs, compete, give away prizes and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I got into the whole social media game. Back in the MySpace days, best network ever. And
definitely.
And, right. That was where I got my social media legs is actually MySpace and Friendster. If you guys, anybody remembers that.
Friendster, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, you're bringing up Halo. I mean, I don't want to brag here, but I was on the #1 Halo Capture the Flag team at my college. So,
awesome,
we were a big fish in a small pond. Yeah.
Right. All right. No, it was good. I got to know a lot of those guys. I don't even remember. The only one's name I remember now is a guy named Zios, who was like one of the first like local programmers here. But that's kind of how I got, a lot of the marketing experience that I have and the sponsorship sourcing experience, because what I noticed was a gap in the market, that there wasn't anyone doing sponsorship. There wasn't anyone helping these kids that were spending all this money to get to these tournaments and these events actually market themselves, and the companies really weren't getting anything out of it. And there was a gap to align sponsorships with this age demographic that, of course, they're going to want to get in front of these, 15 to 25-year-old guys. And so that's kind of my story and, how everything happened with me.
Sorry about that. My mic was disconnected for a second. But actually, so from there, you basically transitioned out of the gaming industry and you've moved into more of a consultation and business strategy and marketing consultation business. That's right?
Yeah. So
go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
I was going to say, what types of businesses do you work with?
So it kind of started out, I was working with other agencies actually through LinkedIn and my work just networking on LinkedIn. a few companies contacted me around a couple of events, and they were like, "Hey, can you help us with, aligning a sponsor for this event or for this party or for this thing that we've got going?" So I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine. I can do that." And it kind of turned into basically a referral base through other things I had done, business where I was helping either other agencies or events line up sponsors or work out their pitch decks, stuff like that. I knew it was a real business when I was approached by a company called Triad Digital Media. I think it's Triad Digital Media or marketing, one of the two. They do events for Walmart, and they also do events for Dell. They wanted a pitch deck put together to pitch sponsors on sponsoring this college gaming league that they were putting together. And I worked on putting the pitch deck together for that. And that was when I figured, I probably need a company name around this, and just instead of just a LinkedIn profile. And so I started Ross Public Relations and kind of got into because it really wasn't like a social media, digital marketing really wasn't even a buzzword at the time. I mean, because this is 2007, 2008 time frame.
Right.
So it was really just kicking off.
LinkedIn was like just in its infancy.
Right. And that's where people were finding me, was via LinkedIn. So after I got into that, my primary clients from that point on went on to the smaller business market. So chiropractors, dentists, doctors, lawyers, people that needed to take advantage of this new social media thing, but didn't quite understand how to do it. And so working with local businesses like that, lots of blogging, lots of writing. So, a few blogs here and there. And then it kind of took off as far as I moved more into speaking and doing, talks and teaching about, this is how you use Twitter. This is how you use Facebook. This is how you use LinkedIn, to associations and stuff like that.
That's great. It sounds really grassroots, really organic. I mean, you just built it up a piece at a time.
Oh yeah, just all accidental, totally not planned. It just kind of turned into one thing led to the next.
You're a gamer that accidentally turned into a legitimate businessman.
Right, who'd have thought it?
So tell me about video. Where does video fit into this strategy for you? And when did you, and speaking of video, when did ScreenFlow become a tool for you?
I first found ScreenFlow, let's see, what's the easiest way? What's the best way to put this? When I first got my Mac, it's an older MacBook Pro, and it's probably got it around 2011, and that was when I first ran into ScreenFlow. And I got it. It was one of my coworkers. He's like, "Hey, I've got this screen capture thing that's similar to this other product that will remain nameless. You want to check it out?" And I'm like, "Sure. How much is it?" He goes, "Oh no, I got a copy of it right here." And so he gave me a copy of it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is kind of cool," but I didn't use it much. And so the next time I actually signed onto it, probably about a year later, I didn't realize it wasn't a legit copy. It wasn't working. I'm like, "Oh crap, this is bootleg. This is a bootleg copy." So I actually went out and bought a copy of ScreenFlow.
Glad to hear it.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is cool," because I asked my wife about it. She does a lot of training, and she goes, "Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never used it." She was using another product. I'm like, "Okay, well this seems easy." And then the thing that sold me on ScreenFlow after I got into podcasting was Pat Flynn from the Smart Passive Income.
Yeah.
He was talking about ScreenFlow and how easy it was to use and how much he was using it in his videos. I'm like, "Oh, well, if Pat's using it," and I had Pat on the show and I know him, it's got to be a good product. And that was when I actually, pulled the trigger, bought it, and then started using it to make my own videos. And pretty much anything I do on video now, it's done with ScreenFlow.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been watching some of Pat's stuff. He's great, and he's one of the top 5 business podcasters. So that's awesome to hear. I didn't know he used ScreenFlow, but it makes sense now that I think about it.
Yeah, he does.
That's cool. Well, so it's nice to have influencers like that are spreading the word. We really find that there's this incredible synergy between online marketers and entrepreneurs and independent businessmen that really need a tool that's going to be simple to use and very fast and will capture any of the types of sources, whether it's a camera or whether it's your screen, or whether it's the slide deck, and just can throw that all into an easy to use little timeline and then publish it to Facebook, YouTube, wherever you want to go with it. So that's kind of, we see a real excitement around the product, as particular people in your area and industry. So how have you found that it's like, what are the things you like about it that you couldn't find in other tools? Because it sounds like you tried a few others too.
Yeah, I've tried a few others. The other ones they're expensive. They're buggy. So there are a few free ones out there that you can use, but what I found is they're a little buggy. They don't always work consistently. And there's a ton out there. I can't remember the name of the one that I used. It's some downloadable, and it's a little app that's kind of always running, and when you try to compile the video, you just don't have enough control. But when using ScreenFlow, and I don't even use all the features, like I don't do the green screen stuff yet. I don't do any of that stuff. Most of it is like really quick videos that I'll need to throw up to promote something. So, one of the videos I did, I was interviewed by a company or a website called Smart Assets. And I wanted to feature this video on Instagram to promote something else I was doing. But at the time, Instagram was 15-second videos. So I'm like, I got to figure out a way to make this video 15 seconds. And so I just went and copied it, drug it over to ScreenFlow, started cutting it down, and did some jump cuts within the video so that I could get it down to 15 seconds and do some fade ins and fade outs with some branding of my own to kind of get people to go over to it and then go over to my profile for the actual link. And I could then repurpose that video and use it for Twitter and Facebook or wherever I wanted to use it.
Well, that's cool. So you keep it pretty simple, primarily using it as a video editor and a publishing tool. All right. And I understand you use it a lot for the podcast. Is that right?
Yeah. Anytime I'm doing anything for the podcast that requires video, I'll cut it and use ScreenFlow to make the video cleaner before I upload it to YouTube or Wistia.
Got it. And
so I'll bring in the person's name. I'll do the lower third like you guys have with ScreenFlow, instead of, because there are a lot of other video tools you can use out there. You could just upload it to YouTube, but it makes the video look a lot more professional when you're running it through ScreenFlow, because there's stuff that you can do. You can bring in a quote if the person's talking, and I haven't done that for a while, but for a while I was taking these little 2-minute segments and putting them up on YouTube and creating some videos like that with ScreenFlow.
Got it. Do you, so that was my next question. Do you primarily use it for just video editing, video, AV, audio and video, or do you ever just use it for just audio?
Well, there have been a couple videos that I've done where the person wanted to do video and audio, and the audio or the video didn't work out, and so I've just pulled the audio from it. Or if I need to
is the
bring in
podcast
other
a
audio.
video podcast, or is it an audio only podcast?
No, it's audio only.
Okay.
But sometimes I'll throw in a video, especially if the guest is interesting on video, then I'll put the video up kind of as a bonus. And then, if they're talking about stuff, include some stuff in the video. Like there's one I did with a guy named Josh Dorkin from biggerpockets.com. We actually have video of that. I'm probably going to take that video. Well, I've started working on that video to put some highlights in about some things that he talked about, just to, keep the content fresh.
Got it. Do you, so when you've got a guest like Pat Flynn or Josh on the show, or you're interviewing them, they're obviously remote probably. They come in through Skype or something else.
Yeah,
like we're doing
here. Skype.
How do you, what's your workflow for that? Do you record the whole call and the whole screen using ScreenFlow and then bring it in and edit it down that way? What do you like to do?
I've done that before. I don't do that all the time, basically because my MacBook is kind of old. And so it's, depending on how I'm, what all I have going on during that interview, it can sometimes just tank, and I'm like, okay, I won't risk it. And it's not ScreenFlow that does this; it's all the other crap that I have on here. But I'll use Call Recorder, and ScreenFlow is good when I want to capture stuff and kind of edit it right after the podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, you use Skype Call Recorder or something? There's some good apps for just recording the call, and then you can deal with the file later. Yeah,
and that's usually what I do.
Okay. All right, and then tell us a little bit more about your setup. What types of camera do you like to use? Do you like to shoot ahead of time and then bring the files in that way, or do you like to have your office there and just shoot right there with a webcam, the microphone you're using? What do you do?
That's pretty much it, man. I will shoot with this webcam. It's just a Logitech. What is this? A C90, I think.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I've had it for a while. It's a good camera. It's 1080p, so it works. 1080p is 1080p. It doesn't really matter to the camera. It's got a nice little Zeiss lens on it, so that was why I got it. Right now, I'm actually recording on an ATR. What is this? 2100. Audio Technica.
Those are good ones. We recommend those.
Yeah, it's a nice cheap mic. It does the job, and you can always upgrade from there. So yeah, that's pretty much what I use. I've got a high LPR 40 that I hardly ever use. It's in a box somewhere. I've got a couple other, really good mics, but this is the good old trusty.
Yeah, I think with talking with you and some other, high producers, they often value speed and efficiency over obsessing on the nicest equipment, and the nicest workflow. It's more important that they get the content. It's the content that's really what's most important. And then, the rest is kind of window dressing. And if they need to get a nicer mic, they'll do it at some point. Or if they really have a special project they need to go over the top on, they'll do that. But most of the time, it's about how quickly can I get that stuff turned around and out to my audience. Right.
Yeah. Now, if I'm shooting a video project, I'm not using this. I'm using either a 4K camera, or I've got a Nikon 3100D that works, because it's usually quick videos. It's under 10 minutes. So you can, meet those, or I'm going to hire a videographer or something like that. But, with a podcast, when I was first doing it, I had an interview with John Lee Dumas, and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be great. I got my mixer set up, it's awesome. No, it sounded like crap. And he goes, Ross, what's going on, man? You sound like crap. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. He's like, when we talked before, you sounded great. Now, what happened? I'm like, I hooked up this mixer and I did all this stuff. He goes, oh, man, you sound bad. I'm like, well, hold on. And so I just unhooked everything and just went straight in USB, straight into the computer, and it was perfect. And I'm like, okay, this is the setup.
That's what I'm doing now. Right. Totally. Yeah, the more links in the chain, the more things that can go wrong.
Exactly. Well, but I do like a good setup. And what's funny about that is one of the things that this journey in social media and digital marketing has led into is an adjunct teaching position over at the University of Missouri St. Louis. So they want me to teach a podcasting class, which is coming up in the fall, like sometime in November. I get to go and buy equipment. So of course, I'm getting nice microphones and a mixer that you can, you drop the iPad into, and it's all electronic. It's from Mackie, and I don't know which model it is, but I get to buy some good stuff. So I get to geek out a little bit and actually use, good audio and actually some good video equipment as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's rad. Yeah. I follow a lot of podcasts. I love podcasts. And my iPhone's constantly telling me I'm out of space because I'm auto-subscribed. And so one of the places I like to go, and one of the podcasts I listen to, another ScreenFlow user actually, is Tim Ferriss. The Tim Ferriss Show, and he, I think, put his podcasting. He gets questions about how's he doing it all the time, and so I think he put his kit, like what the types of stuff he uses, on like mygear.com or mykit or something. So you can go out there, you can find what other people are using, and again, the message is usually like, don't make it too complicated. You just need a good mic, good recorder, and you need some good software like ScreenFlow or something to get going. And I think again, a lot of people like Mac, operating systems, and if you're on Mac, it's really, to my mind, the best software you can use for this type of stuff. I'm not going to say we're trying to take on Adobe Premiere or Apple Final Cut Pro. I mean, those are very highly specific, professional level, editors. But for what it does, ScreenFlow is the fastest, most comprehensive tool for the lowest price. And I think that we over and over again, we get reaffirmed by that. So it's nice to get that affirmation from guys like you that are out there, and that we're making a tool that's useful for you.
Right. If I don't need Adobe Creative Suite, ScreenFlow makes sense. And that's part of it, is like, for $99 you can get a really powerful piece of software to have a professional look for whatever type of projects you're doing, whether it's video or audio, because a lot of people do miss that audio component that it has, that you can pull the audio right out of a video. So
Right.
you can repurpose, if you're shooting video, repurpose it and turn it into a podcast or, an audio training. I also use it for a course that I'm putting together on another site where I'm going to be doing some screen captures because it's really valuable for that. I'll do screen capture videos where, it's just a little box down in the corner, or I'll pull myself out of it altogether and just walk people through it. Or, you take your PowerPoint, you start going through your PowerPoint and you record that in ScreenFlow, and then you can upload it and you got your video, you got your, explainer video, your sales video, stuff like that. And, you're 100, 150, $200 in on what you need to do, and you're still producing quality stuff that you're not ashamed to show to an audience. So, I love it. I'm a super fan of it.
That's cool. Yeah. When you, there's actually a good point about being able to extract the audio and just do an audio only, because that makes it's really easy. You just click on it and tell it to just attach the audio and from the video, and you can delete the video track. When you're done with when you have just an audio and you publish to say like a MP3 or an MP4, where does that go if you're a podcaster? I mean, do you upload it to Apple, to iTunes? What is the publishing step for
Right.
if you're a podcaster, if somebody who just wants to get into podcasting, what's their next step?
So the next step, if you were to use ScreenFlow to extract audio, you want to upload that to a podcast host. Some of the ones that I actually use three. I bounce back and forth between these three. The main one I use is Libsyn. They've got different plans for whatever your particular need is, but they will host the file for you, and then via a RSS feed, which stands for really simple syndication, that is what iTunes pulls from. So they pull that media from the actual podcast host where your file is stored. So I use Libsyn, I use Spreaker, and I use Podbean. All three of which are excellent companies, and I use all three. All of them can deliver your content to wherever you want it to go. And then, of course, there's a whole bunch of other networks that can share your content.
And is there a reason you jump back and forth between the three? Is there an advantage to using more than one?
Well, not really. To be honest, I started with Libsyn, and I have some relationships with Spreaker and with Podbean. As I got more into the industry, I just discovered that, oh, wow, there's more companies out here that do this and do this really well. So let's give it a try.
Got it. Well, yeah, and I'm sure, and podcasting, it's weird. I mean, it came out 10, 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just it's going through this whole new revitalization phase, and everybody back then was like, these are cool. How come nobody's using them?
Right.
I was really into podcasts since the day they came out, and it just feels like then nothing happened for 5-6 years, and now all of a sudden everybody's got to have a podcast, and it's like, where have you been? This has been rad the whole time. So
right. Yeah. Thanks, Adam Curry from MTV.
Exactly. So, all right. My next question is, we talked a little bit about your setup. We talked about your, how you use ScreenFlow. But what about how do you like to? Do you have a process? Let's say, I mean, obviously, different videos require different steps to make and that sort of thing. But let's say you had a video that you knew you wanted to create ahead of time. Do you have a process for how you plan that out? Do you like to just sit down in front of the camera, figure it out, just shoot it? Or do you like to plan it, write down your content ahead of time, do a script?
Well, if I'm shooting for me, I'm very like off the fly. I'll just shoot the video and talk. No matter what it's about, I'll just stand in front of the video, talk, try to get it done in one shot and go. But if I'm really trying to get a message across, I'll write down what it is that I want to talk about. I'll think about the type of shots that I want to get and the message that I'm trying to portray. Because anytime you shoot video, whatever you're doing, whether it's video, whether it's audio, a podcast, whatever, you need to understand the story that you're trying to tell to the person on the other end. Like, what are they going to get out of it when they finish watching it? Are you looking for a call to action? Are you trying to move them to do something, or are you just trying to inform? If you're just trying to inform, then you don't necessarily need to plan out a story arc to get them from point A to point B, but you do really want to make sure that you're educating them on what it is that you want them to know, and you're doing it in a way that's not too lengthy and that really drives your point home. So if I'm just talking about Instagram stories, which actually I used ScreenFlow the other day to do a Facebook video for Instagram stories and the new, thing with Instagram and their whole copying Snapchat.
Yeah, they're trying to get on the Snapchat game there. They don't want to lose their business.
Right. The Insta Snaps or Snapstagrams. I've heard all kinds of silly names about it. But, for something like that, I just wanted to tell people, hey, this is how you use it. This is the benefit of it. This is how it's different than Snapchat. If you couldn't get with Snapchat, these are the things. So it's like, well, who's going to be the audience for Instagram stories? First off, every Instagram user that's out there can now see it. So it's like, what's the point of them using this? And that's the biggest thing that businesses are, okay, well, I wasn't on Snapchat, so why would I do this? Why would I create a story that's going to disappear in 24 hours? And the good thing about it is that you can tell a brand story. You can tell a behind the scenes. Like I've been, with my phone, sending a few Instagram snaps. I don't know what I've been sending some video, right? I've been sending some video to Instagram. The thing about Instagram is that the stories, it makes your content is discoverable now. Whereas on Snapchat, if you don't have someone following you, they can't discover you.
Right. But
you can always get somebody to get to your profile. You can go like stuff and drive people there. They see your story, they watch it, stuff like that. But I was able to do that quick video. And I mean, it literally was about a 5-minute video with using ScreenFlow.
So for yourself. And so if you have multiple stakeholders, you want to go through more of a formal process of reviewing what to do and stuff. And, this actually, while you're talking, brought up another question for me. I'm sure we've all seen them. There's these videos out there where you go to somebody's website and they're selling a book or a program on how to, do this or that or lose this much weight or whatever it is. And like, they'll take you to this embedded video in their page. Like you'll find like a link on YouTube or just wherever, you'll follow it because it's the banner ad kind of got your interest. So you go there, you land on their page. There's this embedded video where you have no controls. You can't see how long it is. Doesn't tell you when it's going to end, and they keep like promising they're going to tell you something, but like there's like 10 to 15 minutes of just talking, and then telling all the cool stuff they're going to tell you, and then finally they tell you one thing, and then like by the end of it you've spent an hour watching and you're like, what? You could have just told me the thing like right up front. Why all this like this hold on, this I don't know what you call it, ceremony prior, this what's with the deal with that? Do you know why they do that and why it's so frustrating?
Well, so when you start talking about telling a story and convincing someone or getting someone on your side, you've got to get them to know, like, and trust you. The first, the three different parts of the sales process. So you want to take them on a journey. You want to, identify the problem. So the problem is that you're overweight, and then you want to identify with the person. I was overweight too. Right. And so they want to tell that whole silly story, whatever it is. And then they want to, start talking about it's like the hero's journey, basically. They want to start talking about this is some of the things that I did. I failed at this. I failed at that. I tried everything. So the struggle, now you're talking about the struggle. It's like, oh, okay, this person was overweight too. And they dealt with the same thing I dealt with. And then these are the struggles that they went through. And then I found this solution. And so after I found this solution, now I'm fighting. And so they're in the winning portion of it, just like, Rocky training.
Right.
And it's just one big montage video that lasts an hour, basically.
Right.
And then at the end, it's like, okay, so now I've delivered you to where you want to be. This is the result you're going to have. Look at how great I look or how great these people look. And for, $39.85, you too can have it in 4 easy payments. So it's that kind of thing. That's all it is.
That makes sense. It just takes so long. I feel like you want someone to know, like, and trust you. Just don't be don't do that. It's becoming at this point where I'm less likely to be invested, whatever they're selling, because they just wasted so much of my time. And I already know it's a formula now. And now enough people have done it that I think they got to come up with something new, maybe a little bit. Brief is going to be the new know, like, and trust.
I think it is. And I tell people, hey, this is a quick 2-minute video. I just wanted to talk to you really quickly about this point. Wanted to share this with you. And if you want a longer training, you can go sign up here. And then there's a webinar that I'm going to be doing. that way the person is not like, oh God, how long is this video going to be?
And then there's no timer. They can't even, you won't even tell you up
Right.
front, hey, this is going to take us 10 minutes. I'm going to get through as quickly as I can because I respect your time,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. Instead, it's like, I'm just going to keep stringing you along through this.
Well, part of that is because most people are using YouTube as their host.
Mm-hmm.
And down in the bottom right-hand corner, you can click on view on YouTube. And when you click view on YouTube, you've got all the other distractions of YouTube on the sidebar.
Right.
And it's very likely if your video is boring, they're going to see, oh, what is that? Oh my God, is that a snake? And then there you go. They're clicking on that.
That makes sense. So they like to have it embedded with no, just so it's just the video and that's all you can see.
Yeah,
and
you
then
can't skip to the end.
You can't jump back and forth. Yeah,
Right.
I didn't like that either. That was frustrating. All right. Well, that makes a ton of more sense because I've seen that trend, and now you explain it, that's very clear on kind of what they're doing.
It's effective, but it can be annoying.
Yeah. So let's talk about what is the most challenging part of creating a video for you or screencasting? What do you find that's very difficult and you're still trying to get a handle on?
Making sure you got the right shot.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. The lighting is important. Often I'm just like, oh man, I don't know whether this light is good. Like right now, my light's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to improve my lighting because the lighting I have right now is kind of janky. I would move the camera, but I'll put it to you like this. You'll be surprised at what you can do with a utility light and some copy paper.
Nice.
So that works. If you, I had one of those photography video lights and I have no idea what happened to it. I did a shoot somewhere and somehow that bag did not make it back.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
Like,
so that's out the window. So now it's like
stuff?
We're going with the
I'm
paper to do your fill just to reduce the light. That's nice. It looks good, man.
It works.
I've got the same thing here. It's just like probably 3 times bigger and yeah. So it's all about that lighting. If they can't see your eyes, then trust.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so I think that's a great point because getting your camera right, getting your lighting right, that is always a challenge, and always, especially if you're in an environment with open windows that go to the outside, different times of day, different weather outside, like it just all changes the way the room will look and the way you'll look inside the room.
Right, and some of the stuff that I've had to get over is, oh my God, I'm on camera. Mm-hmm. Because when you're standing in front of a camera, especially if you have someone videotaping you from behind the camera, they're looking at you, and then if you're outside, you're like, oh my God, who's looking at me? And there's always that guy that just kind of sneaks up and just looks at you while you're doing it, and you're like, stop looking at me, I'm burning, stop.
Right.
There's always that guy. No matter how many times I've shot video somewhere, there's someone that will just walk up and look, or they'll start talking to you. Right. So the nervousness from shooting video and talking on camera can also be a thing, where to look so that you're not, the entire time you're looking at camera, you're kind of like this because you're trying not to look directly at the camera because you think, I guess it's going to attack you if you look directly at it.
Right.
It's like, don't look it in the eye.
What about, what about phones? Like, when do you use your phone camera as your primary video shooting source?
Funny that you say that. Yeah. Actually, so I'm writing a book. I fell into a book deal. I can go into that story if you want, but the iPhone has a 4K camera.
Yeah.
And
the new ones, iPhone 6S and beyond.
The 6S and the 6 Plus.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty decent 4K camera. Don't let that fool you because the sensor in this camera phone is not nearly as effective as an actual really good camera. Mm-hmm. But if you need something to use, and I say that with some caution because you still need other stuff. But if you need something to use, shooting video on your iPhone is not a bad option, but you have to do it right. I would say to actually shoot video on an iPhone, there are a couple things that you need to do. You need to get a good wide angle lens that goes over your iPhone, and you need to get a good tripod if it's a still shot, and a way to get the audio from your iPhone to whatever it is, or to make sure that your audio is good. So what I do is I actually have an external microphone that I clip on that's wireless that connects to my iPhone via
Nice.
the camera deal. It's a little lavalier mic that I can tuck in, and I use a Zeiss wide angle lens that I can clip onto my iPhone. Number one, it gives me a little bit better video, and it gets a wider angle, so I can get a much closer shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes it look nice. That's kind of the only time I use my iPhone for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So, and when you are using your your iPhone for for those types of shoots, do you find that it's the best way to just get out into the street and do shoot some different locations on the fly and maybe publish those directly, or do you like to then pull them back into the computer and do some editing on them first?
No, I pull everything back into ScreenFlow so I can brand it and upload it fairly quickly. And it's so quick that I'll have my MacBook with me. And so I'll grab it, pull it off my phone, because usually the video is going to be huge anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm running out of space. So I'll clear a bunch of stuff off my phone, record the video, pull it off my phone onto my Mac, pull it right into ScreenFlow, throw my little bumper on it for my name, whether it's going to fade in, fade out. Usually that's the most I'm doing with it. If I put something at the end or I'm talking about something throughout the video, I'll have that text coming up, upload it right from ScreenFlow to either Wistia or YouTube, whichever I'm using to host. When I'm doing a video for a sales page, it's going to go on Wistia because I don't want any real other branding. And their branding is so small that you can't see it. And even if you click on it, you're not going to go anywhere but out to your Wistia video, which you can also put controls around that video so that if they do go there, you can send them right back to a sales page or order page or something like that.
Got it.
But that's all I use for that.
Makes sense. Well, if you were going to give people just 5 tools or 3 essential tools to get video content and start producing, whatever it is, whether it's a marketing video or a podcast or whatever, what are your most essential tools? And it could be software, it could be hardware.
All right, so I'm gonna grab some gear since we're talking about it.
All right.
I like nerding out on my gear.
Oh, me too.
So
I'm excited. Let's show what you're going to show us.
I've got my bag. Yeah, we're gonna do a little show and tell. If it's in, there it is. So there are a couple things that I use. And this is actually new equipment for me. So there's my, where is it at? Oh no. This is what happens when you do live video with,
you never know.
Somebody that's geeky. So I don't have all of this stuff, but I just picked this thing up. It's an EXO lens.
Oh, cool.
You can see it right there.
Yeah.
That's the little thing that your iPhone slides in like that.
Okay. That's right.
And then this little deal.
And it has a lens right on it?
Oh yeah, it's
that EXO lens thing? So it's not only a holder, it's also got some optics on it.
Yeah, it's a holder, but here I'll show you cool. It's a little Zeiss wide angle lens. And basically you just screw it on to this little deal, and so it sits there pretty much like that.
Nice.
And then you slip your iPhone into it, and it gives you a much wider angle. And it actually has because the lens is so good, it cleans up the video a little bit.
Nice.
So it makes the video look even better. And then the lav mic, I just forgot because we're on video where I put it. I've got a little Shure, or actually a Samsung lav mic, and it's wireless. So they've got this little wireless dongle thing that I just dropped. And the microphone, and you hook that up with the this little thing that you can get at the Apple Store.
And it goes right into the little lightning adapter, huh?
Yeah,
is that right USB on the other end?
It is USB, so you can hook it up to either your computer, or you can hook it directly into your iPhone.
Yeah.
So since that's USB, just take this little thing, plug it in, and I mean it looks stupid, but it actually works, and it works surprisingly well. So you just plug it into your iPhone like that.
Wow. So that little piece, the USB piece, is that Bluetooth to the receiver, or is the receiver? That's the transmitter. Okay.
Right. It's blue. This is a transmitter. It's Bluetooth to that. You hook your microphone in, and then you're off to the races with really good audio.
Any app on the iPhone, or what apps do you use?
I just use the regular camera app. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. That's so cool.
I ran into that at Podcast Movement actually in June. And so
Mhm.
I decided to pick it up. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to grab this thing because it was $79.
That's awesome.
I'm like, okay, I can do that for $79.
Yeah, yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, yeah.
Now
That's
this
really
this
cool.
stupid lens was like $200.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's a nice
But
lens.
I'm like, yeah, it's actually a nice lens. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. That's my hardware stuff.
Mhm.
Software, ScreenFlow, definitely.
Mhm.
Like I said, it's the only video editing software I use.
Mhm.
I was thinking about, maybe I should pick up some other piece of software, but I couldn't really find a real justification on why.
You haven't needed it yet.
No, and
Alright.
quite honestly, I can't imagine needing it because some of
Yeah.
the stuff that I've done, I've got a good friend that's a filmmaker, and he's like, "Oh, how'd you do that video, dude?" It's like, I didn't know that you learned some After Effects. I'm like, "No, man, that's some
Yeah, a
screen
lot of
stuff."
people ask that question. They'll be like, "Dude, you learned After Effects?" It's like, no, man, that ScreenFlow does that. So it's
That's right.
pretty cool. Sometimes you need After Effects when you need it, but most of the
Right.
time, you're
Right.
surprised when you don't.
Right.
All right, so let's. We've been going. This has been a great interview. I've been really enjoying talking to you and having you on the show. So let's just do a couple more questions, and if anybody has
Sure.
any questions, type them into the Facebook feed or the Facebook comments, and we'll get them to Vernon here. What's the most, when you were just starting out, what are some of the silly mistakes you made? What's one of the big lessons that you learned?
Being afraid to, if you're talking about from a sales perspective, because all of this is to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that actually something that I heard on one of my Instagram followers, friends talk about, they had just left a meeting with Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was talking about people not really giving value. There's always a tactic or a motive behind delivering value. And I think that's the absolute wrong way to approach it. And it's not the way that I've approached it. And that was one of the ways that I started off approaching it. It was like, okay, I'll use this, I'll give some value as a tactic, and then I can go and ask for a sale. And that's just really not a genuine way. If you're going to give value because you're doing it, and you know that organically, because you're providing good information, that person's going to be loyal to you. And eventually when you have something to sell, then you can sell it to them. That was the mistake that I made very early on, was not making sure that I was just doing it just to do it. I was
Right.
doing it as a tactic to try to get this. Hey, download this free report. And then, by the way, I'm going to try to sell you right after you download it.
Right.
It's, or send in an email, and every email is a sales
Right.
email.
And you
It's-
found that just wasn't generating the same amount of interest or response or conversion.
It was, you know what? It wasn't generating the type of sales and response and conversion that I wanted. It generates money,
Uh-huh.
but it's not long-term customers. It's people that you were able to convince right then that,
Right.
oh yeah, this is what I should buy, but then they don't usually come back because they don't feel any
Right.
loyalty, or just some other person on the internet that they happen to buy something from that may or may not have been okay.
Yeah. This is what some of the Seth Godin and some of the other in the community call your tribe. You're trying to find your tribe.
Yeah.
And so those people weren't part of the tribe.
Right. That was one of the lessons that I learned very early on, was to, build that community, get people talking to you, and start talking to them, and be willing to share stuff without saying, well, I can't really talk about that portion of it.
Right.
Got to be willing to share your stuff, and actually not being afraid of the sales process. I think that's part of what keeps a lot of people from doing things on their own, is just being afraid to let people know that, hey, look, I am in business to make money, and I'm not going to always try to take your money from you, but when I'm offering you something of value, I'm pretty sure that you're going to see that it's here.
Yeah.
You'll get it if it's something that's, that works for you. And if they don't, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to put a number on it, and I'm only going to put a
Right.
number that I think is fair, and then it's up to you whether you buy or not.
Yeah.
I'm still here. I still do my thing, but
Right.
I think that I've got some other stuff that you'd be interested in, and I think it's a fair exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's cool. So let's talk a little bit about that. What types of what types of messages would you give to other ScreenFlow owners? People might be watching this. I mean, I assume they're finding this because ScreenFlow is something that is relevant in their lives, or they've heard of you and just want to know a little bit more about. Maybe they're curious what you're doing. Can you kind of give us a lesson now and kind of tell us a little bit about how your what types of things that you like to messages you like to share?
Sure. Yeah. So for ScreenFlow in particular, any type of teaching anything that, about social media, the hardest thing, and although there's a million YouTube videos out there, the people that are following you may not have seen them. And so that's the thing that I think another thing that kind of goes back to the other thing that holds people back is not being willing to provide information that they know is already out there, but it's not done the way that you would do it. So I use ScreenFlow to communicate those messages and to show people how to do stuff. Even if it's something that I just discover very quickly, like with the Instagram stories or Snapchat, when Snapchat was just like taking off and all the marketers were starting to get into Snapchat, I did a quick Snapchat for your business video and just did a screen capture and drug it into ScreenFlow so that I could use it and capture the video from my iPhone. And then on the sides, because I didn't do the video in landscape, I did it, the native mode that your phone would be in, and then put a little phone wrapper that graphic that I drug into ScreenFlow around it. I was able to, put some other information in the sidebar.
Nice.
So I think that kind of answers that question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is specifically, it sounds like twofold, right? Your answer was twofold. One is that you like to share tips and tools, particularly around social media, and that ScreenFlow is a valuable teaching tool no matter what you're sharing, whether you're teaching how to be a chef or whether you're teaching, like you are, social media tips and information. And then the second piece of that is that, and I like this point that you made, which is that it may not matter that this message or what you have to share is already out there and people have already shared it. You might have your own spin on it, and you might present that same information in a very different way that's going to resonate with a whole different set of people. You can hear the same thing from 3 different people, but it might be only one of them that actually it clicks for you.
Right.
Because their mind works, or the way they're presenting the information for some reason, that just helps you process it better.
Exactly.
That's a really good way to put it. Cool. Well, then, are there any final messages you want to share with our audience or people? Any parting words, whether it's related to success in social media or business, or any other area you want to talk about?
I got a good social media story for you. Yeah. So sharing and being willing to talk to people, networking. I think networking is the most important thing that you can do on social media. Never underestimate the power of your connections. And I know a lot of people say that, your network is your net worth and all the little buzz things that are around it. But I literally got a book deal because of someone that I met at a conference who I met on social media. And we met, in real life. And because of our friendship that developed, behind that, she was able to give me an introduction to another person who gave me an introduction after we connected in real life, on the phone, to another person who was an acquisitions editor at the publisher that I'm using, which ultimately led into this book deal over, I think, a 72-hour period.
Wow. That's cool.
From a book that I wasn't finished with. It's not even done yet. I mean, this just happened in June. I was about to go on vacation, and one thing led to the next, just because I value the actual relationship on social. So I think people get wrapped up in the whole, how many followers do I have on Instagram?
Right.
How many do I have on Facebook? I don't have a ton of followers on Instagram, but the followers that I do have are very responsive to the things that I post. So when it's Bowtie Thursday, I get responses on, that's a thing, by the way.
Is that a you thing or is that a thing?
I thought it was just a me thing. It turns out that it is actually a thing. To go totally off script, my 13-year-old daughter at the time, was she 13? Yeah, she was 13 at the time. Oh, 14. She was younger. She's 15
My dad
now.
used to do the same thing.
Right? Well, she's 15 now. That's just a shame.
I'm going to be doing the same thing with my kids. And when they're 13, I'll be 14. Oh, God. They're always going to be like 2 in my head.
Well, for the past year, she's a Doctor Who fan. She's like, "Oh, Dad, you should start wearing Matt Smith Doctor Who, by the way, for the other movie."
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, there's more than one.
Right. She's like, "You should start wearing a bow tie." I'm like, no. I'm not 10.
Not my style.
I'm not wearing a bow tie. She goes, you start wearing a bow tie like every day. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it every day. If I wear one. And she goes, you should wear a bow tie. So I don't know how it ended up, but we ended up somewhere and there was a bow tie and I bought it. And I'm like, all right, Taylor, for you, I'm going to start wearing a bow tie every Thursday. And she's like, yeah, right. And so for every Thursday for the past year and a half, I've worn a bow tie and posted a picture of it on Instagram. So it's bow tie Thursday every Thursday.
That's
and now it's
awesome.
kind of become a thing.
Bow tie Thursday. I didn't even know.
There's a lot of people that's following that hashtag now.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll check that out. I might have to start wearing one of my own. I never thought it was a look I would consider, but gosh, you might get me into this.
It's fun. One day a week.
Yeah.
Every day I think is too much. It's just not special.
A little much. Yeah,
right.
still has to mean something. Bow ties used to mean something.
Yeah. Bow tie Tuesdays. Bow tie Thursday.
I was actually I was checking out, who is it? I think it's the CEO of T-Mobile. It's like pink and black is kind of the color scheme. I mean, that he's given was it giveaway Tuesdays or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
I was pretty impressed with just kind of the creativity out there on that large companies are having to come up with too, not just little guys, but even the big fish are doing the same thing, and it's amazing how active that CEO is. I mean, and same with you find other CEOs, they're very socially present, and it makes a big difference. It puts a face on the company. They're logging their daily activities, and they're engaging with their customers and their fans, and they're just kind of generating a culture and a tribe that just makes, I immediately just had a higher opinion of the company after I just was browsing through the Twitter page of just the CEO.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If the CEO is active and they're actually a good person, oh yeah, it's going to grow the followership and the advocacy for that brand, just because you're spending the time to make it something that's approachable.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people come at it backwards. They're like, what can social media do for me? And I'm gonna try to get the most out of it that I can, and I'm gonna kind of create this hack strategy or this tricky strategy, and I'm gonna do automate my posts and blah blah blah, and then everybody's just gonna come find me, and I'm gonna make a lot of money. And I think that just gets the cart before the horse.
Yeah, it is. No, it's like, how much value can you actually give? And do you have anything to share? And oh, by the way, if you don't have anything to share, trust me, you do, because there's articles out there. Read an article, form an opinion, and then share it. It's that simple. When people, say, oh, I don't know what to talk about. Well, there's a whole interweb of stuff out there.
I've got some topics you could probably find out there.
Go read 5 Medium posts about something and then form your own opinion of the things that they missed and then talk about it.
Right.
So, there's always ways to create content, which is, if you want to use that as a tip, there's always ways to find content. I'm not saying go out there and copy it. Go out there and find the gaps. That's what you're looking for. You want to find the gaps in what's missing. Analyze,
synthesize, and create your own. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Everyone's got a unique perspective, and I think that's a really, really practical, good advice. So maybe we'll end there for today. And Vernon, it was really nice having you on here. I really appreciate you spending the time with us, and there's some very valuable tips you offered. And you guys, where can people find out more information about you?
You can find me over at VernonRoss.com. It's got, that's pretty much all my locations. Right now I'm online at Ross PR, pretty much anywhere. Twitter's my main network, although I've been pretty active on Instagram since this whole stories thing. At Ross PR there, at Ross PR on Snapchat, which I'm also very active on. So you can pretty much find me anywhere at Ross PR.
At Ross PR, or you said RossPR.com, or is it VernonRoss.com?
VernonRoss.com.
Okay, VernonRoss.com or at Ross PR. All right, I'll have people check that out. And then last but not least, tell us about the book. When's that coming out? What are you writing on?
Oh boy. So the book is coming out. I don't know, because I haven't actually met with the publisher. It's all really, really new.
Okay. This is really new.
Yeah. Well, it's like brand new. Haven't even sent it off to my editor yet. Okay. So we're looking at possibly November, because they're fairly quick. So November, December, may even have a January launch date. It just really depends on when my editor comes back with the finished product. But it's called Master Your Message. It's about how to find your voice on the microphone, behind the camera, in meetings, and in any situation.
Cool.
And it's just kind of my story and a bunch of other people's stories about how they found their voice, some of the things that they went through, some of the struggles that I went through in discovering that when it first happened for me, and when I realized that, you know what, I should be talking to people more in this type of setting.
Well, great. Well, we look forward to getting it when it comes out, and we'll have you back on the show sometime. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man.
All right. You too. I appreciate it as well. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. This was awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you later, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks for episode 12. And stay tuned. We'll see you then.